Hello and welcome to another edition of Focus, a program produced by the Department of Disaster Management, DDM. I'm your host, Fiona Alexander Smith, Information and Education Manager at the DDM. In this edition, we look at CaribeWave16, a tsunami simulation exercise conducted on March 17 here in the British Virgin Islands and in other Caribbean islands. The exercise provided an opportunity for testing of the early warning and alert systems, while at the same time making it possible for government departments, schools, and businesses to test their evacuation plans and identify any shortcomings which need to be addressed. More than 4,600 persons participated in the exercise in the BVI, the highest on record since the simulation test began in 2009. The participants included individuals from government departments, schools, and private sector organizations. And although we are satisfied with the level of interest this year, we hope next year's exercise will have 100% involvement from all sectors. But why is it necessary for such an exercise to be undertaken annually? And how useful is it for disaster management agencies? The answers to these and other questions after this commercial break.
So you think it's all about sport? Running can save your life. Say you're at the beach, having a good time, and you feel a strong shaking. Run. See the water withdraw an unusual distance from the shore. Run. Hear a strange roar. Run. If you experience any of these warning signs, run to higher ground.
There may not be enough time for an official tsunami warning. Be tsunami smart. Know the natural warning signs. Are you ready?
Visit weready.org, brought to you by SEDIMA and the European Union.
Welcome back to Focus. We are talking about CaribeWave16, a tsunami simulation exercise which took place on March 17. Joining me to speak about the need for and usefulness of such an exercise is DDM's Preparedness and Planning Manager, Shenya Armstrong. Welcome to the program, Shenya.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you for having me.
Great. Now, before we begin our discussion, please tell us about your role at the DDM.
As you mentioned, I'm the Planning and Preparedness Manager with the department, and as such, I seek to provide guidance to government departments and private sector businesses in terms of developing their contingency plans and testing them as well. To some extent, we also provide guidance to schools, and another component of the portfolio which I manage is the Community-Based Disaster Risk Reduction Program, in which I'm assisted by another officer. And that program looks at engaging community members, especially with the CERT program that we had. And we also had the Teen CERT that has been used with the BVI High School, the Elmore Stout students, as well as it's also being done with some Cedar students. And we hope to roll it out to other secondary schools throughout the territory.
Great. Thanks for that detailed insight into what you do. Now let's get into the discussion about CaribeWave16. You know, the region has not experienced a tsunami in recent years, and some members of the public regard this particular exercise as unnecessary. Why is this exercise so important?
That is an excellent question. While the region has not experienced a major tsunami or earthquake event in living memory, it is necessary for us to prepare because these events can occur. And the difference with a tsunami event is that it can be both a sudden onset event as well as it can provide time for us to evacuate. And it's the suddenness in nature of that event that we have to be prepared for. We have a saying at DDM that it's better to prepare and prevent rather than to repair and to repent.
Okay. Preparedness, of course, is a key aspect of disaster management. How can this particular exercise help us to prepare for an actual tsunami?
Well, again, you're full of excellent questions, and I'm happy that you asked. If I can make bring light or bring us back to what occurred in 2004 with the Indonesian quake. We had upwards of 230,000 people that lost their lives. And the survivors, when you listen to some of the stories, most of them would say they remember being educated in school about what the warning signs are. And similarly in Japan, with the 2011 quake that occurred, Japan is a nation that is very familiar with the earthquake and the tsunami threat, and they prepare for it very well. They have lots of exercises and drills, ensuring that the communities are aware. And with that particular event, we saw 15,000 persons losing their lives. So 15,000 versus 230,000. It's definitely needed that we do prepare for these types of events.
Certainly. We had a number of organizations, schools and departments taking part in the exercise. How useful is this exercise for them?
Persons want to know that when they're at work, and if they have children, when their children are at school, that these places are safe and that the desired contingency plans are in place. Exercises can be useful tools to both the public and the private sector businesses to help them to not just develop and test their procedures, but also to bring awareness to their employees. Some business within the private sector have a regulatory requirement that they do have plans and that they do test those plans. The BVI Labor Code of 2010 identifies having certain contingency plans in place. For government departments, they're mandated by law. The Disaster Management Act of 2003 requires government departments, all government departments and statutory boards to have disaster plans in place and to have liaison officers, and that these plans are exercised and tested. We do have a bill before the House of Assembly, or Disaster Management Bill of 2011, that's going to roll out that requirement to private entities, entities that are considered critical for the functioning and the continual functioning of the BVI economy. When we speak about schools, we have a Safe School and Smart School program that's currently ongoing. It started back in 2009, in which we seek to ensure that schools are safe and that they're healthy environments. And with the addition of SMART, we're looking at safe, healthy, and green, and the schools are checked against a checklist. In order for these schools to maintain their safe or SMART certification, they have to have disaster plans in place. They have to exercise those plans. And another helpful element to that is some of the schools are going up for international accreditation, and that is also a requirement as well. I just want to plug in here, parents, contact your schools, PTAs, get involved. Ask if the schools have contingency plans, and don't just leave it up to the principals and the teachers, but parents be involved and participate in helping to draft or update procedures. If they're having drills, go to the school and participate in the drill or witness or observe it. Have a discussion with your children, letting them know about the different hazards and if they know what to do.
Very critical points and information. Thank you, Shenya. Now, coincidentally, 2 days after the simulation exercise, a number of islands were shaken by a 6.0 magnitude earthquake, which was reportedly felt in Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Montserrat, and here in the British Virgin Islands. Thankfully, it did not trigger a tsunami. But if it did, explain to our listeners what they would have observed based on the components of our early warning system.
That particular earthquake event provides a very good scenario for us to examine. It was a quake that occurred approximately 241 miles east of Montserrat. That quake occurred outside of normal working hours. At the DDM, at the Department of Disaster Management, we are not a 24-hour operating agency. However, we are on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. With that particular event, let's examine it, occurring outside of normal working hours. What would have happened? What are some of the steps that would happen? Well, in the BVI, we do have a tsunami warning focal point. A warning focal point is the point of contact that will receive the messages. That is 24/7, and that happens to be the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. So while DDM is not physically at their office, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force can activate our early warning systems. And what would happen is they would activate the sirens. the messages would go out on the siren network. They would activate the radio interrupt, in which the message would be broadcast on the AM and FM radios. They will activate the TV interrupt, in which the same message that's going out on the radios will be going out on CBN television station. And they also have the radio data service, a radio data system that is tied into our early warning system, which in essence is the size of a radio alarm that you would see in most hotel rooms. And that system is available at the DDM. It's available locally for purchase. You can contact us and we can tell you how you can go about purchasing it. We program it and we install it. Now here I have to say a bit more about this system, because most persons say they don't hear the sirens where they're located. The sirens are outdoor warning units. They alert you that something is going on. Switch to a radio station to find out more information. The RDS radio unit, it's a radio that's portable. Once it's fully charged, you can plug it out and take it with you, and it offers about 30 hours of battery life. If you have that unit with you, you would be able to hear what is going on once information is being broadcast. So persons are advised they can take it with them. It also has a text message that scrolls on the display screen, and once the sirens are activated, there is a tone that goes off on the radio. For most businesses that do not want to have radio or TV on during working hours, this would be the perfect alternative, so they can contact us about purchasing those RDS radios. Now, we have additional systems to all of that. Most persons would have received a text message, and there was quite some concern about why is this one getting the message before me, etc. The text messages are done in batches. We were very pleased to have all of our cell phone providers on board to provide this service. It's something that we have not had before. It's not perfect. We're still working with the system. The way text messaging is done right now, the messages go out, as I mentioned, in batches. If we have cell broadcasting, everyone will receive the message at the same time, and it's a feature that we're working towards implementing. But we do not have that as yet. So in the meantime, we have text messaging, and I would urge persons not to rely on one type of warning notification. If you get a text message and you don't hear the siren, still take action. In addition, we have the VHF radios, we have the marine radios, and those are some of our additional supporting systems as part of the early warning system.
Thank you so much. Now, as part of our efforts to educate the public on how they respond to a tsunami threat, a number of signs have been erected at strategic locations throughout the territory to indicate the tsunami route that persons are expected to follow in the event of an actual tsunami. However, even with the early warning systems and signage in place, it is still important for organizations and families to have a plan. We'll speak more about evacuation plans after this message.
Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake. Shake. Drop to the ground and take a little cover under a table or strong furniture. Kneel. Bend your head close to your knees. Hold on to a table leg or desk, please. Hand behind your head, protect your neck with your arm. Stay away from windows, you must understand. If you don't have a shelter to hang on to, remain in a place till the shaking's through now. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Drop, cover and hold, stay in control. Drop, cover and hold. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Wave tsunami, wave tsunami, wave tsunami. Move away from doorways, windows and shelves. Heavy objects to drop, you could damage yourself. Cabinet and bookcases may also fall. Like pictures and objects mounted on the walls. And if caught outside, find an open space. Debris from buildings shake like earthquake now. Shake. Let me see you shake like earthquake now. Wave. Tsunami. Wave. Tsunami. Wave. Tsunami. Drop. Everybody now. Drop. I wanna see you now. Cover your head. Cover your head. Drop. Say everybody now. Tsunami. I want you to put up all your hands. Tsunami. I want you to put up all your flags. Tsunami. Wave. Tsunami. Wave. Tsunami. Do not go home without permission. Stay and wait for help and instructions. Do not go down by the street to watch the action, just to talk about what has happened. In science lab, chemicals may drop. Exit only after shaking has stopped. Do not panic, everything will be fine. Don't use the phone line at this time. Shake, let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake, let me see you shake like earthquake now. Drop, cover and hold, stay in control. Drop, cover and hold. Don't panic. Shake, let me see you shake like earthquake now. Shake, let me see you shake like earthquake now. Wave, tsunami. Wave, tsunami. Wave, tsunami.
Welcome back to Focus, a program produced by the Department of Disaster Management, DDM. We're speaking about the annual tsunami simulation exercise, CaribeWave, and the importance of having an evacuation plan. With me is Shenya Armstrong, Preparedness and Planning Manager at the DDM. Now, most of us are familiar with the saying, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. That saying alone emphasizes why it is so important to be prepared. Having a plan in place is absolutely critical for emergency situations, as we have been emphasizing here on Focus. The CaribeWave exercise provided an opportunity for participants to test their evacuation plans. For future simulations, if an organization does not have a plan, can they still participate in the exercise?
I'm happy you asked that question. If you do not have a plan, yes, you can participate in the exercise. As a matter of fact, we encourage it because in practicing what you don't have, you tend to respond instinct by instinct, and then you can definitely see what are some of the areas that we need to put down on paper and what are some of the areas that we need to improve, where we need to tell persons, no, you can't do this, or yes, this was excellent. So not having a plan, you can still participate, and it helps you to better plan and develop procedures.
Great. Now, one of the concerns we have been having is getting persons to understand the difference between what they should do when they feel an earthquake and what is done when a tsunami warning is issued. Please explain the difference.
When you feel an earthquake, we ask that you practice earthquake safety procedures, which in essence are drop, cover, and hold. Get under a sturdy desk, in a doorless doorway, or in the arc of a door, and just brace yourself until the shaking has stopped. If you're on your bed, get under the bed. If you can't get under the bed, put a pillow over your head and get into a crouching position. There are a number of tips that are available on our website that persons can refamiliarize themselves with. For a tsunami event, a tsunami is very different. A tsunami event can occur after a strong felt earthquake event. That is when, after you've braced yourself, you evacuate. For a tsunami, you evacuate and you head to higher ground. That is, in essence, the difference.
Yes, thanks for that explanation. What is the procedure to develop an evacuation plan?
Evacuation plans should not just be developed for schools or businesses, but even families are encouraged to have a family disaster plan. And having an evacuation plan or evacuation procedures, it's basically knowing your environment, seeing where the closest high point is. We have a number of tsunami safe zones that have been identified throughout the territory. If you're within the area of one of those, you identify the closest one that you can get to, and you try to get to your safe point as quickly as possible in a safe manner. Right? So if you're not located next to one of those tsunami evacuation points, you can also look at what is the next highest point that I can get to. You either can go inland and up, or you can go upwards if you're in a 5 or 6 story building, and that's your only option.
Okay. After developing this plan, how often should it be tested and why?
We encourage that you test your plans at least annually or every time you may have had an event that warrant some of the procedures to change. So we do recommend that you test them at least annually. Why we recommend is because you want to ensure that your procedures are current and that whatever new technologies or new procedures are coming on stream, that you're familiar with them. We have a very transient population. New workers, people change all the time, especially in jobs. You want to ensure that staff are current and are aware, and everyone is aware of what they need to do. So that's one of the reasons why you test your plans annually, at least annually.
Mm-hmm. Once plans are written, who checks them and who approves them?
Plans can be submitted to the Department of Disaster Management, and we have a team that reviews the plans and provide feedback. We have a number of plans that have come in recently, so we're still working through some of them. Mm-hmm. But the DDM, in essence, looks at those plans. We check them and we provide guidance and feedback on how persons can improve them, and to some extent we do approve disaster plans.
Shania Armstrong, thanks for joining us on Focus and for taking the time out to explain evacuation plans and the need for us to be prepared.
Thank you for having me.
I hope the information you shared would motivate our listeners to develop an evacuation plan and test the plan during the annual tsunami simulation exercise. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Scary! Everything just shaking and shaking and making big creaky noises.
Earthquakes, big and small, take place in the Caribbean at least 10 times a year.
The dishes rattling and falling and breaking. Then Vonnie started to scream.
All I could think to do was shout, "Get outside, get out!"
Earthquakes, hazards, take control, reduce your loss. If an earthquake hits, what can you do? Get down, get under an item of furniture like a table. Hold on and stay there until the quake passes. Find out lots more about earthquakes and other hazards at your local disaster office. A message from the Department of Disaster Management.
Will you be ready for the next tsunami? To be sure you don't get caught off guard facing the fury of a tsunami, here's what to do to ensure your protection. Know the tsunami warning signs. Indication that a tsunami might be pending is an earthquake with a magnitude of 6.5 or more, rapid changes in tide waters, and a significant withdrawal of the sea. If you detect signs of a tsunami, move to higher ground immediately. If you can't get uphill, then go as far inland from the coast as possible. Areas at greatest risk are less than 50 feet above sea level and 1 mile off the shoreline. What you know can very well save your life or the life of someone you love.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Focus. I am Fiona Alexander Smith, Information and Education Manager at the Department for Disaster Management. I hope you all understand the value in being prepared and planning for potential hazards. And of course, I hope you'll be registering for next year's exercise, which will be held during the month of March 2017. Join me next time for another edition on CBN Television and on 90.9 FM.